on the Newman Jets Audio Network. This is the Jetcast, the official podcast of Newman University Athletics, featuring exclusive interviews with coaches, players, administrators, and more. The Jetcast podcast is brought to you by South Central Sealing and Paving, online at SCSEALING.com. Mel Hambledon Ford, Pepsi, Allstate Insurance Agent Mike Light, Eck Agency, Donlinger Construction, Big Corner Creative, Dr. Brennan Lucas and Advanced Orthopedic Associates, Keystone Solid Surfaces, and by Overland Charters, the official transportation provider of Newman University Athletics. Here's the voice of the Newman Jets, Blake Cripps.
As the calendar inches closer to January, we hopefully also inch closer to wrestling season. The schedule is now out and official, and it is January 6th when the Jets will hope to start the season with the red and blue duel. Navy and red kicking off the season at 6 p.m. We get started getting you ready right now on episode 25 of the Jetcast. And, of course, we're joined once again by head wrestling coach Ryan Smith. And reciprocating what Coach Spence did for you guys with the wrestling match, you've got the Jets basketball mask on today. It looks good on you, Coach.
Yeah, I had to give him a little shout-out, you know.
I understand. So
got that limited blue, and it looks good.
You guys going to have any uniforms with the powder blue this year?
I've actually we're working on a singlet right now, and just like some of the other teams did, we got a T-shirt floating around out there. So.
Okay.
You know, the guys kind of like it. I mean, it's just kind of refreshing.
They're kind of bringing it back here. Might become Coach Spence may have started something here at Newman. First of all, Coach, welcome back. How good does it feel to finally have a date, to have some clarity? You know when your MIAA matches are. You know when the national championships are. How comfortable does it make you feel that this season is actually going to happen?
Well, I don't know how much more comfortable it makes you feel, but at least you have something out there on a calendar. You know what that first competition is, and you know hopefully what that last one is. So, yeah, it gives us something to plan around and go from there. So,
obviously, in the pandemic, all these teams are trying to stay healthy, trying to stay out of quarantine, trying to be able to be out at practice every day. How successful have you been in keeping the wrestling team healthy during this era of pandemic?
We were pretty successful up until about a week ago. So we actually had a group of guys that were going to be going to U23s this weekend in Omaha. We decided to pull out of that on Monday. So, it just didn't make sense to send those guys over there, and the little bit we had going on within the team, just take a couple weeks off and get back at it.
Well, obviously, with wrestling, you guys are like probably the least socially distant sport ever. And I know that, wrestling is not something like basketball where you can go out and shoot baskets on your own. With wrestling, you kind of need somebody to train with. How difficult does it make, to keep, how much more of a challenge maybe is it to keep guys safe in your sport than maybe some other sports in dealing with coronavirus?
Well, I think you got arguments on both sides. I mean, like you just said there, I mean, that's probably the common thought process, but at the end of the day, I mean, when you look at wrestling, you got one guy and another guy. So, I mean, the tracing piece of it is a little bit easier.
Sure.
We have natural pods within, weight classes. You got a group of guys that are only going to go with each other every day. So for the most part, we feel like we've done a pretty good job of keeping those pods and keeping the guys safe.
Let's talk a little bit about this roster of Jets that are going to be the leaders on your team for this year. You've got 5 seniors on the roster currently. We've heard a lot about Tyler Lawley, obviously. Had him on the Jetcast last time. Got to talk to him. Obviously, he's got very high expectations for his final season. But also Nate Panagakis, Noah Perkins, Mario Rodriguez, and Jacob Stoneberger, also guys who are in this senior class who need to be leaders and point scorers for this team. How are those guys coming along, and how are they providing leadership to the Jets?
Well, you mentioned guys like Jacob Stoneberger and Mario Rodriguez. Those guys have just been workhorses for us, from day one. And they've really been a part of that group that has kind of, just jumped us forward as far as where we've been the last few years. And they've seen everything from the bottom to the top, really. So out of the 5 that you listed there, I think 3 out of those 5 will come back for additional, for their give back year.
Okay.
Noah Perkins redshirted last year, had a great redshirt season, and then so. Jacob Stoneberger, he'll go on to chiropractic school. He's not going to put his life on hold to wrestle one more year. And Mario Rodriguez is kind of in that same situation with his student teaching. So, they're coming in, doing their jobs day in, day out, and they're just anything you ask them to do, they're going to do it.
This is episode 25 of the Jetcast. We're talking with Ryan Smith, head wrestling coach for Newman. How much of a game changer is it to get a senior back potentially like Tyler Lawley for the give back year and have a guy like that in your program for one more season with the opportunity to score points for you, to lead the team for another year? I mean, that's such a huge opportunity for you guys that in a normal situation, he's just done. But to be able to bring a wrestler like that back, how much of a game changer is that going to be for you next year?
Well, I think it's huge if it ends up being a give back year.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of question marks out there right now. It's in his eyes, it's not a give back year because he got last year taken from him. So there's you have to look at it from a holistic view instead of just looking at, you guys are lucky you get another year this year. Well, that's not necessarily the case. He missed out on a national tournament last year where he was going to get hopefully 4 matches in.
Sure.
So I mean, there's a lot that was lost there, but at the same time, I mean, we're wrestling. I mean, if you look at our schedule, we're wrestling basically 5 weeks, 6 weeks. There's not a whole lot of wrestling that's going to happen within that period of time.
How much more pressure on these individual guys knowing that each individual match is so much more critical just because of the limited amount of competitions?
Well, it's going to be huge because the way our schedule's set up, I mean, you're basically wrestling a regional matchup about every time we step on the mat. So they're going to have to be there. They're going to have to have their mind right, and they're going to have to be ready to go.
So let's talk a little bit more about this roster. When you look up and down on the roster and see where these guys are from, you have been really hard on recruiting the MIAA footprint. A lot of guys from Kansas, Oklahoma, right here where the MIAA is, Nebraska, Missouri. How much of an emphasis has that been for you, and how impressed are you with the quality of kids you can get out of the Sunflower State and right here in the center of the country?
Well, you're in the mecca of wrestling as far as Wichita, Kansas goes, and you're 100% right. We've been reaching out. I think it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago we started picking up a few more Okies, and every year we try to add to that mix. But we always have a pretty healthy mix as far as, right here in this local area. We always try to hold. We're not held to any standard there, but we're right around that 40-50% mark, and then we fill the holes from there. So,
Kameron Frame is another guy who is expected to have very lofty aspirations this year. Redshirt junior, Wyoming transfer this year. Obviously one of those guys that went up to the national championships and was not able to pursue another banner here for Fugate Gymnasium. Talk about what he has to prove this year on the mat. What are you looking forward out of Mr. Frame? He's
just got to keep doing his job day in, day out, and I don't have there's no doubt in our mind that he's not going to be there. He's that guy. He's that, in the past, we talk about that guy. We've had Dustin Reed in the past. We've had Tyler Meese, Noel Torres. Now we have, both Lawley and Frame in those leadership roles, and that's the exciting piece of it. And like we talked last time, I mean, we try to one-up ourselves each and every year, and that's what we plan on doing this year.
Well, and the next guys who are going to be trying to one-up, obviously, would be one of your 5 freshman Jets that are on the team. As you look to piece this thing forward, and you've mentioned the steps that you have taken, winning the national championship last year, your late run in the MIAA to get some MIAA wins, and now this year wanting to start competing in the conference with even more of the MIAA teams. Which of those freshmen is going to be the next one of those guys that you mentioned? Which one of those has the potential to maybe step up and hang another banner here at Fugate Gymnasium?
Well, wrestling's a little bit different. Sure. Those other team sports where, I mean, you take a freshman, you're throwing them to the wolves. You're trying to figure out where they're going to land. So let me get through a couple duels and we'll answer that question. But I mean, we're pretty impressed with the younger group. but it is what it is. We'll see we'll see what it ends up looking like.
Well, any decisions on red shirts that need to be made this year? Any guys thinking about red shirting? Obviously, with this being possibly a give back year, does that maybe discourage you from using red shirts?
Well, I think with the way the NCAA manual's looking now, I don't know what a redshirt year would look like for anybody this year. I mean, it's a give back year for everybody. Then you get in those. Then all of a sudden you're talking about 6 years later on. So it's kind of going to be a mess in that regard.
Sure.
So. Yeah, I mean, we'll have a few guys that redshirt, but it won't be. I mean, it's not documented this year, of course.
Now, in the past here at Newman, you guys have kind of been able to cultivate a pretty exciting wrestling atmosphere for your home matches. And I remember coming out to the MIAA championships that you guys held. Really sad that the conference can't figure out a way to make that a thing, because I really felt like that was a great event with all the schools coming in and competing for MIAA championships. I think that there's something lost there by not having that event. And then senior night last year obviously was so explosive. At least 85% of Fugate Gymnasium was full. Is there such a thing as maybe home mat advantage in wrestling?
Oh, 100%. Who doesn't like to wrestle in front of the good guys, I mean, it's awesome, yeah.
Well, that being said, obviously the mandates have come down due to coronavirus. Each of the MIAA wrestling facilities, I think this holds true for basketball as well, is going to be capped at 25% capacity for their normal attendance, which at Fugate, the capacity is 1,197. So we're looking at just about 250, 300 fans that will be allowed in. How much different is that going to be, and how much of a challenge will that be, not being able to have the gym packed with students and fans like you normally would, and having to wrestle in front of a mostly empty gym, which, based on what you guys have been doing and built to, is not something that most of these current wrestlers are going to be used to,
right,
at least here at home.
Right. Well, I mean, we'll make it work. We don't have any other choice. So it'll be a little quiet, though.
Yeah, it will be a lot less.
Probably no glow sticks going and anything like that.
Oh, are you going to drop? No, not going to drop the lights this year, maybe?
Oh, we'll drop the lights,
okay.
But I mean, we'll have to turn off the lights so nobody can see how many people are in there, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, if you haven't come out to a Newman Jets wrestling event, they do. They darken everything. There's a light just above in the middle of the scoreboard they use for basketball. They keep score of that for wrestling too, but it shines down. It's an electric atmosphere. You really have to come and experience it. A final question for you. Obviously, a little bit different, because normally you would have started wrestling, around now, right? Like around November. So there's always this mid-season break. How tough is that on the guys? Because obviously you go home and in Christmas time there's a lot of really tasty things to eat, and the turkey, the ham, the brisket, and the cookies and the pies, and for these wrestling guys, obviously they've got to get back and weight pretty quickly after that. How much of a challenge is that normally, and is it any different this year with Christmas break happening just about a week and a half before the season starts?
Well, I think it's going to be a real challenge. I mean, if you look at a normal schedule, I mean, you're right. We started wrestling this last weekend. It's cold outside, so we should be on a mat wrestling in a gym somewhere.
That's right.
So, I mean, a guy that you normally or typically gets in anywhere from, 4 to 6 weigh-ins in a fall semester, now all of a sudden you're sending them home and they haven't even weighed in once. It's gonna make those first couple weeks of the season even more challenging. So they're gonna have to get on their diets. They're gonna have to be disciplined. They're gonna have to do the right things when they're not underneath our watch.
Navy and Red getting started at the Red and Blue Duels, January 6th here at Fugate Gymnasium, 6 p.m. If you'd like to come and see them, that is when the wrestling season is slated to start. We'll talk with another wrestler here in just a second. Coach Smith, thanks so much for the time.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Kameron Frame will join us next on the Jetcast.
Fact is, every insurance company hopes you drive safely. But Allstate actually helps you drive safely with DriveWise. It lets you know when you go too fast and brake too hard. With feedback to help you drive safer, giving you the power to actually lower your cost. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. Now that you know the truth, are you in good hands?
Check out your Allstate agent here in Wichita, Mike Light. at 316-684-0121. Thank you to Donlinger Construction, proud supporter of Newman Athletics. The Jetcast is sponsored by Dr. Brendan Lucas with Advanced Orthopedics, the official orthopedic surgeon of Newman Athletics.
Wrestling drawing a little bit closer. January 6th is now the date when the Newman wrestlers return to action here with the red and blue duels here at Fugate Gymnasium. Redshirt junior from right here in South Central Kansas from Goddard, Kameron Frame joins me. Fantastic season last year. 21-4, 7 falls, 5 technical falls with a major decision. A transfer from Wyoming, and he made the NCAA championships last year. Kameron Frame joins us here on episode 25 of the Jetcast. Thank you so much for the time, and congratulations on a fantastic season last year.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for that kind introduction.
Well, it was. Well, you certainly earned it. First of all, 21-4. You don't have that record and make the NCAA tournament without having a great year. What made you successful last year?
It was a good year, and I just got to give all the props to my coaches and family and friends that have all been there along the way for this whole process. I mean, it's all built up to moments like that, and I just look forward to just keep on progressing and getting better.
Obviously, that had to be a difficult moment when you and Mr. Lawley were at the NCAAs and found out that the event was not going to take place. How did that transpire, and what were the feelings that immediately came over you when you learned that, not due to a loss, but that your season was coming to an end?
Yeah, it was a pretty hard one. It was a shocker, but it wasn't at the time. Just watching the lead up of ESPN and everything.
Right.
Everything else was getting shut down. My immediate reaction was I started to cry, honestly. I was pretty upset.
No, I can understand that, with trying to get everything. You work so hard for yourself and for your team, and wrestling just such a physical sport that you have to invest so much with cutting weight, and to have it all taken away like that. I mean, how thankful are you that you weren't a senior and that you get another opportunity to try to make it back?
Yeah, I mean, wrestling is a very brutal sport, and it takes a lot out of you, and I'm just thankful that I still have more opportunities to keep going after my goal.
How much motivation do you have having that opportunity slip away due to no fault of your own to go back and have another chance at it?
It definitely raises my level of intensity that I have towards the sport, and care and love, and just how I don't want to ever take it for granted. I just look forward to it.
We're talking with Mr. Frame, Kameron Frame, 21-4 last year, a redshirt junior on this Newman Jets wrestling team, set to start once again at Fugate Gymnasium, by 25% capacity, maybe a little bit more for the wrestling teams this year. January 6th at 6 p.m. here at Fugate Gymnasium is when the season will start for them. What have been some of the things that you've been working on, and how has the preseason run-up been a little bit different this year? Obviously, you're starting later, but with coronavirus, obviously that's affected everything. How prepared do you feel like you are for the upcoming season?
It definitely has made some changes to how we want to progress and keep moving forward towards this season. Our coaches have a game plan of when we want to be prepared, when we want to peak. So leading up to this, we're still just trying to play it by ear. I mean, everything, it's been so crazy. No one knows how to deal with this, but we're just trying to take it day by day and just make sure we're prepared for the end of the season.
How much comfort do you get from at least having a date on the calendar and a schedule out on the website, even though there is always that flexibility and perhaps elasticity of when things are actually going to happen? Any relief coming from the fact that you do have a calendar, you have times, and you have at least a plan for how things are going to transpire here this winter?
Yeah, it's a huge relief. I mean, we've been dying to hear about how this season was going to play out and when everyone was going to start wrestling and all of that, and it's definitely changed. We don't have a lot of the open tournaments that we typically start the season out with, and get some of those easier wins under some guys' belts and get more experience, but I think we'll all be prepared. I mean, we just got to make more simulation matches in practice and make it more like a realistic view on how practice can be, so we're prepared for actual competition.
How have the practices been going for you guys, and how motivated have the guys been to get back on the mat and get back to work?
Oh, I think everyone's just been itching to get back to it. I mean, with even the season getting pushed back to January, it's been crazy. Everyone's dying to get back out there and just show what we've been working for.
And you've used the word motivation a couple of times, and there is another frame on the Newman Jets wrestling roster. Kendall Frame looks an awful a lot like you, both from Goddard. Now, I'm not for sure. It's not in the bio. Is that a twin brother there?
Yep, we're fraternal twins.
Because I was going to say pretty close. Are you guys pretty close in weight as well?
Yeah, we're actually flipping it this year. Last year I was 157 and he was 165. This season he's going to go 157 and I'm going to go 165.
So what was the decision-making process like that? Was that something that you guys talked about with each other? Did you discuss that with the coaching staff? What went into that decision?
We discussed it with the coaches, but it's also been something that we've thought about for a while. Like always growing up, I was always the bigger one. And once we got to be like sophomore, junior year of high school, he went a weight above me and I went a weight below him. So now it's time to flip the role again. So
you wouldn't happen to have any battles with him on the mat? You guys don't happen to scrimmage against each other, would you?
He's one of my main practice partners. It's been since day one, ever since we started. It's crazy. It's exciting. It's fun.
How is that a little bit more juiced up for those than maybe the normal sparring that would take place?
It can be at times. It depends. Sometimes we know each other too well where it's just hard to get anything, like getting any shots or any of that and scoring. But other times, we have the brotherly arguments, of course. It happens with everyone.
Has it ever gotten personal after the fact?
No. My parents always growing up, we made sure we're always at different weights and stuff. And even at tournaments that we were at the same weight, like one of the USA national tournaments we won in high school, there's a twin rule, so you both win. So it's crazy, yeah. They don't want people to wrestle. They don't want to see that. So
very nice. Have you tried to use your own berth in the NCAA championships to try to motivate him to try to meet you there and kind of you guys can go together this year?
Yeah, he's been dying to get out there and show what he's got. Years prior, he's battled some injuries, and he's really looking forward to get back this season and show what he's worth.
So we've got a question from you from last week. That would be Tyler Lawley, a senior, asking you a question. And what he would like to know is, what's the biggest difference? You've participated in Division I wrestling at Wyoming, a transfer. In your mind, what's the biggest difference between D1 and D2 wrestling?
There is a difference, but at the same time, it's very similar. We're all still working towards that same goal of being a national champion. I'd say it's not as demanding on the body. We get to go see our family more and spend more time, and have a little bit more relaxed setting, but it's still a huge level of intensity compared to say high school or any other sort of sporting competition, I guess you could say.
So you are going up in weight this year. Do you feel like moving up in weight class permanently is easier than moving down in weight class for a season, or is that different based on the person?
Going down a weight class is never fun because that just means you got to lose more weight. So, there's different aspects of why it could be harder, why it could be easier. I look forward to it. This isn't my first time going up. Originally at Newman, I started at 149. Last season, I went up to 157, and this season we're going to go up to 165.
So maybe even one more weight jump coming?
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
Find out next year.
How comfortable are you at the current weight? I know that you won't have a real official weigh-in for a couple of months until just before that January 6th date. But how comfortable are you feeling at the new weight, and how much have you weighed in to try to get yourself gauged as to where you need to be moving forward with this new weight this season?
I feel really good. I've been rolling with some bigger guys like Noel Torres, one of our national champs, and it's been going well. I'm excited to see how this season will play out.
How is that, trying to scrimmage against a national championship winner, and Noel Torres, a guy who still has some Olympic aspirations? We're assuming that the Tokyo Olympics are still moving forward for next year. He was training really hard for this year to see if he would make the team, and I know he's still got aspirations of hopefully bringing back a medal to Newman University into the United States. What's it like to have him as a practice partner? That's got to be a real challenge.
Oh, it's amazing. It's great for me. It's good to get those moments where you get beat up on. It's not I'm not going to say it's not common, but it's really good. It increases the amount of them, and we're very competitive. And he's actually still currently training because at the time, well, as of right now, they're still holding the world championships this year for wrestling. So he's still training for that. Hopefully he gets to go to that. So we'll find out soon.
Okay. And final question for you, we'll let you go. Your goals for this season, kind of a weird season, a shortened season, a give-back year, so not necessarily going to cost you a year of eligibility this year, but I know that you feel like you've got a lot to make up for because of the opportunity lost from last year. So what are your goals for yourself and also for the team as you guys have tried and have gradually become more and more competitive in the MIAA? And I know that as a team, you kind of want to take a next step in that regard and as to maybe winning a league championship this year.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our goals. I think we all just want to show our capabilities and what we can do this season. Of course, my goal is to be a national champion. And the team's goal is that as well. I mean, that is very hard to attain, but I think we can do extremely well in our region and our conference, and I'm looking forward to it.
Kameron Frame, one of the leaders on this Newman Jets team, going to try to lead this team back to the national championships in March this year. Thanks so much for the time, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We will wrap up the Jetcast when we come back with the newest member of the Newman athletic coaching staff, a new strength and conditioning coach. I'll introduce you next.
Where can you land the best Jet swag? The official online store of Newman University Athletics, NUJetsgear.com. Store features the greatest variety of Jets logo gear anywhere, from latest clothing styles and hats to Newman branded lawn chairs and office supplies and more. NUJetsgear.com is your place to purchase sports specific, alumni, parents, and hard to find Newman merchandise. Shop right now on your computer or phone, NUJetsgear.com, or click the Shop Now button at NewmanJets.com.
Hi, I'm Alex Stevenson with South Central Sealing and Paving. We specialize in parking lot maintenance. We do asphalt repair, crack seal, seal coat, slurry seal, concrete repair, striping. Heck, I'll do anything for money. My dignity can be bought. Do property management, trash pickup, snow removal. My kids gotta eat. And hey, if you need any carpet or anything like that, call my dad, Jeff Stevenson, at Harry Street Carpet. You tell him I look better than him on camera, he'll give you a 20% discount. We're South Central Sealing. Let us fill the cracks in your asphalt.
We will wrap up this week with the newest member of the Newman Athletic Department. Hayden Jones is the brand new strength and conditioning coach for the Jets. He has spent time at Minnesota, Texas, and Hastings College in Nebraska in the Great Plains Athletic Conference, one of the premier NAIA conferences in the country. From Houston, Texas, he is the third strength and conditioning coach in the history of Newman University. Hayden Jones, first of all, welcome to Wichita and welcome to the fleet here at Newman University. Glad to have you aboard.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be out here.
Well, let's talk first, obviously, kind of a time of year when hires like this don't normally happen, but in 2020, obviously, anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you come about getting the offer, hearing about the opportunity, and eventually making the decision to become a Jet?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a crazy time. Minus the 2020 factor, it's literally just coming in the middle of first semester, so it's kind of been a little hectic, but I heard about it through my boss at Hastings College, who I used to work for. He had a connection with Strider. So I was last down in Weber International in Florida, and he reached out to me and said, hey, there's this position up here in Kansas. Are you interested? I said, absolutely. So had a phone call with Strider, went through the whole interview process, and now I'm here. So very, very happy.
Obviously, Strider Blackburn, the former coach, now up in Lawrence at the University of Kansas, helping to do some coaching for their women's sports. And he was one of the guys that I think that Vic had brought in and really started to transform this department, obviously. So big shoes for you to fill. This will be your first gig as the strength and conditioning coach, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
How excited are you for that prospect to be not just one of the guys in the department, but the guy in charge of the department?
Yeah, well, I'm the department.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I have an intern to help me, and she's been very, very helpful. But I'm very excited for it. I've had a lot of different opportunities at Hastings. I had a couple teams myself and then assisted, but still not the top guy. And then when I went to Minnesota, it was just assistant. assisting Corey Peterson out there, working with mainly just women's soccer, and then we helped him with men's swim. And then when I was at Texas, it was just like assisting a program. Nothing I did, nothing I wanted to like create or anything like that. And then at Weber, I had a couple teams, but it's still never been the top guy. So it's nice to kind of get to run everything. It's very eye-opening to see all the things that go into it full circle. So very excited.
Hayden Jones, the new strength and conditioning coach for the Jets, here with us on the Jetcast, wrapping things up. A delayed season. Obviously, you come in with nothing in competition. Normally, this would be about the time basketball would already be started, probably. Yeah. Most seasons, volleyball will be making a postseason push, hopefully. How does it make it different for you coming in when the year hasn't started yet, but we're finally starting to get some dates? We talked earlier about wrestling starting up just after the year. We're just a couple of weeks away from basketball. How does that change what you need to do to get things ready for these players who are already getting ready for their seasons with nothing active going for the normal fall sports?
Yeah, it's actually kind of nice because it gives me an opportunity to help and develop the athletes and get them prepared for a full season or a half season or whatever is coming at them. It's been such a weird time that I want to make sure that they are fully prepared physically, that when they do go play, that we can mitigate injuries as much as possible. And you've seen it, the NFL, when they first started, a lot of injuries popped up, college, some big injuries, but it's been pretty good. So my ultimate goal is here, make sure that they are ready to play. So with basketball and wrestling getting started soon, it's kind of going off of what Strider had them doing and kind of branching off that a little more, where with some of the other teams, I can kind of put more of my stuff in and kind of get them more towards what I want to do and get them prepared for their seasons, which are going to be in the spring, most likely, if we have the opportunity.
Well, how do you go about making that transition? Because obviously, the coaches, and I know from talking to them, they were very happy with what Coach Blackburn was doing, but at this point now it is your program, and so you likely have your ideas. How do you go about transforming that program and start to build that relationship with the players and the coaches about what their needs are, what your thoughts are, what your philosophies are, and trying to meld that in? Because obviously, from your perspective, your goals are to help the Jets win championships and to put them in the best physical position that they can be in order to perform their best on the court or out on the field.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I've told every team so far is it's going to be slow at first, but I'm here to win a national championship. That's my ultimate goal. So everything I do is to make you a better athlete.
Hey, I like this guy already.
Yeah, I'm not here to make you an Olympic weightlifter. I'm here to make you a better athlete on the court or the field. So with the teams that are like in the spring season, I'll start to implement more of my stuff. But like with basketballs and wrestling, it'll be a slow transition of kind of getting them to do a little bit of Strider's, a little bit of mine. I'm just kind of sprinkling in my stuff. So it's kind of a slower transition, but it's more comfortable for them as they go through. It's not just a sudden, hey, we're going to completely switch it up and do this, because one, their bodies, the adaptation might be a little more, it might tend to get a little more sore, or it might just not be comfortable for them. So mentally it might be a little different too. So just trying to make it the smoothest transition possible for everybody.
Obviously, this won't be something you have to deal with forever, we hope, but what are the challenges of coronavirus in doing what you normally do? Because, the strength and conditioning room in most places is not a place where a lot of social distancing normally happens. What challenges does that provide you as a strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is we had to cut down size in the weight room. So normally we get like a full team of 30 to 40 in there, where now we have 18. That's our max. So if we only have 18, I have to have 2 to 3 sessions of one team, where I could get them all done in an hour and 20, and now I have to get 3 sessions out of that. So that takes 3 hours instead of 1 hour, 20 minutes. So that takes a lot more of the schedule, and a lot of people are like fit in different places, working around class schedules. It's kind of just been all over. That's been the biggest one. Obviously, a lot more cleaning, a lot more using just single equipment and things like that. But I think that's something that after this is that'll be a great thing to take forward, is just making sure, we are taking care of the weight room a little bit better. We are cleaning a little bit better. I just think that's something that can benefit us in the future. But I'm very excited to get back to larger groups to benefit everybody. I think it helps in a culture aspect too. So
how long have you actually been here? Because the hire was not made official for like last week or something.
Yeah.
How long have you actually been here in Wichita?
I think I got here Tuesday last week.
Tuesday last week. So are you living out of a hotel room? Have you
No.
found an apartment?
No, so I'm currently just living on campus so I can get a place.
Okay.
Which they've been very, very great here, and it's been amazing. The transition's been super smooth. I'm very, very grateful for it. But drove straight 22 hours, got here, and started work the next day.
Okay. Well, so living on campus as you are now here temporarily till you find a house or a home or however you're going to live here in Wichita, what have your impressions been of Newman University, the campus, and kind of the life that people have here in the athletic department and then the students as well?
Yeah, so just living on campus, I kind of leave early in the morning and I leave later at night, so I don't really see too many people walking around. But so far, I really like just the spread out of campus. Everybody's been super helpful, from even just IT. IT's been great, helping me out. I've had a bunch of questions. And then the mail area, they've been great. And then I went to like the student store to get some gear.
Sure.
And then the athletic department's been phenomenal. All the coaches I've reached out to, they've gotten back to me. Everybody's been super welcoming and open to me and what I want to do. So it's been great.
So have you gotten a chance to explore Wichita at all, or have you just been too busy?
I did this last week, and I went to a couple restaurants. So I'm a huge foodie. So
okay.
I like to eat a lot of food. I like to go different places and try new things. So I got to go to a couple restaurants and try some new things.
Anything that stood out to you in your first foray into the food scene here?
Yeah, I went to a restaurant called Homegrown.
Oh, Homegrown is a good one.
So we were told to either get the coffee cake or the Pop-Tart. We got both. And then their biscuits and gravy was the best thing I think I've ever eaten in my entire life.
They have amazing biscuits and gravy.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, thumbs up on that. So we do have a question chain question. So you're new. So every guest that we have, we've been doing this for the players on their teams. They get asked a question by their coach, and the player gets to ask the next player a question. So Mo, the obviously associate athletic director here, in compliance now, was our last administrator on. So her question to you is, when it's time for you to retire and settle down from doing strength and conditioning, where do you want to retire to?
Ideally, I'd love to have a ranch in Texas.
A ranch? And so will there be live animals on this ranch?
Yeah, a couple. Not too many. I don't want the ranch for the animals, more just have some animals on the ranch. So
What animals, any in particular that you have in mind?
Maybe some cattle, some horses.
Okay, cows and horses, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I'll let you go on this. Final question. What are your goals here for this first year, maybe this first season, getting into what we hope will be a more normal 2021 in August maybe, when things can maybe start going back to normal depending on how things work out? Until we get to that point, what are your goals for the first season for you here at Newman?
Absolutely. Big one is to create a culture of building better humans in the weight room. So I look at it as human performance, where when athletes leave the weight room, they get things out of it more than just weights. They get out of it things that they can take into the real world. So that's what I want, is every day they come in the weight room, they get something that they can take into the classroom, into real life. So that's my ultimate goal, is to build that strong culture. And then eventually, I want to win national titles. So,
I like this guy already. Hayden Jones, the new strength and conditioning coach here at Newman University, already started trying to fuel that jet power to a national championship. Already got one banner up there in Fugate Gymnasium. Hopefully, we'll get a couple more up there. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Yes,
great to welcome to Wichita. That's
it.
all for our episode this week. Obviously, we are a week away from basketball. A week from tomorrow, the season opener right here, and we'll be very basketball heavy next week, talking men's and women's hoops. So until then, Blake Cripps saying, go Jets.